Welcome to the Paid in Full podcast. I'm Devin Fadul, and in this show, I sit down with creatives of all stripes who have decided to follow their passion and carve out a unique path to success. My goal is to dive into their stories, learn about their philosophies, and share their hard-earned wisdom. My guest today is Ceasar Barajas, teacher, healer, instructor, and all-around beautiful human being. We cover a lot in this conversation, but I was particularly struck by his story of redemption. From on stage with J-Lo to locked in a jail cell, followed by an uphill journey to a place of acceptance. Ceasar is just one of those people who bleeds authenticity, and I cannot wait for you guys to hear his story. So without further ado.
My name is Ceasar F. Barajas, pronouns he, him, and I want to take this moment to honor the lands that I'm on. I'm tuning in from Chelsea, Manhattan, once the unceded lands of the Lenape tribe. So I just want to take a moment to breathe into honoring the past and present emerging elders. And with that said, I do a number of things and I wear many hats, and a lot of what I do can't be put on a resume. But ideally, officially, I am a teacher, a guide, an instructor, a maestro of sorts, a healer, motivator, a nurturer. I'm a fellow global citizen. I'm attempting to continue to maintain and be a good human, a brother. Title-wise, I do a number of things, and a lot of my life led me to here. But officially, currently, I am an on-camera coach for a couple of different apps, including Bowflex, Nautilus Fitness, where I teach strength training, elliptical, treadmill, yoga, meditation. I also do the same thing for another app on camera, and then I do the same thing for another app, voiceover, so audio-based. And I get a chance to really connect. So a lot of what I think my life is based on is teaching. But we talked about, Devin, about going back, like taking it way back. So childhood-wise, I was born in El Paso, Texas. Very, very hard currently to claim the state of Texas because it's filled with so much beauty. It's just being run into the ground continually by people that really aren't open to considering others. So it's hard. It's hard to say that I'm from Texas, but I am. Raised in Houston to Mexican immigrant parents. My brother and I, who's 2 years younger, are first generation Mexican Americans, and we were the first to graduate from college in our family and then go on to get master's degrees. So a lot of my upbringing was basically the Southwest, Texas, California, Arizona. We moved around quite a bit, so very nomadic in nature. And that was only because we went where the work was. I liken it to military families, like a lot of settle in, and then 18 months to 2 years later, you're going to uproot and you got to start over again. So it was a lot of that. So by the time I was in 8th grade, bro, I was in 9 different schools. Finally settled in high school in Houston so that mom and dad, they agreed that they didn't want to move me during high school, which is weird to look back on now, even as I sit and reflect on it, because they didn't have any issues moving me. Well, they really had to move me growing up through schooling. And I'm now considering and wondering, and it won't get answered now, but like, yo, what effect did all that moving did? So then I left from the high school and I joined the Navy, and I spent 7 years in the United States Navy as a hospital corpsman with every intent of going to med school. Ended up going to get a NROTC scholarship with the plan of getting commissioned as a naval officer, and attended the Prairie View A&M University just outside of Houston, Texas, one of the top revered historically Black colleges and universities in the country. It was an incredible experience playing college baseball, pledging Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, which was the world's first Black fraternity. Of course, they've now since been integrated, and they've been integrated since 1945. So we'll fast forward. I got to do a lot of cool stuff on stages, on television. I've worked with everyone from Jennifer Lopez to Chris Brown, Sarah Bareilles. I've been a stuntman in multiple movies, features for theater, Broadway, off-Broadway, regional credits, 30 plus years in the entertainment game. And I'm proud of it and I love it. But ultimately, what I love is that I get to teach. So whether it was teaching dance workshops in Germany, Austria, and Italy every summer for 9 years, or coming back here to then guest teach at Point Park, University of Michigan, down at University of Houston. I'm also now an adjunct professor at Columbia University and Manhattan College in the Bronx, where I teach meditation and mindfulness. And so a lot of what I teach now is based trauma-informed, healing-centered work, which is what then ultimately leads to my emotional leadership facilitation training. Oh, I'm also a primary teacher and a national ambassador for the Veterans Yoga Project in order to bring yoga, meditation, breathwork, yoga nidra to veterans and really anybody who's in the midst of some mental health struggles. I personally have post-traumatic stress injuries, anxiety, depression. So I use a lot of what I teach to literally hourly self-regulate. And it's what saved my life and why I'm still here to even have this conversation. And here's what's cool about that is like with all the experiences that I've had and all the world traveling and the ebb and the flow of life, I'm only just now within the last couple of years in a state of really open awareness. So like all these things happened and I chalked them up. I was like, yo, checklist, 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 checklist. Going into 3 decades of existence where I thought, yo, my busyness is going to equate to my worthiness. And I was wrong. And now, legit, I set myself up so where I work, but I also don't put myself back on that hamster wheel. I choose to do stuff rather than being told I have to grind and that I have to work. And this then segues into like boundary setting and how do you take care of yourself, which we can absolutely get into.
This podcast doesn't have much of a theme to it. The only similar vein that runs through every episode is just me talking to interesting people. And the only rule that I have is that you can't have a normal job. We've talked about, or at least alluded to, this idea of breaking out from the system, the mainstream path. My question is, have you ever had a normal job? And if not, was it a conscious decision to not have one? Was it by accident?
So again, 30 years as a professional performer. I started at 15 years old dancing for theme parks. I was at Astroworld, RIP Astroworld in Houston, Texas. And it was just fun. Singing, take my hand, come on and take my hand. 'Cause Six Flags welcomes you and take my hand. Give me a high five, a low five, and start it again. Like the fact that I still remember that. Yeah, that was a show I did when I was like 16 years old. And then I thought, well, that's dumb because as soon as I graduated high school, I got to join the real world. So we did the military strictly to pay for college because we couldn't afford it. It wasn't a patriot thing. It wasn't a, yo, I need to serve my country thing. It was a, I need money for school thing. And then I get to college and I'm like exposed to different walks of life and people. And all of a sudden I'm dancing more. So from the very beginning, it was like, oh, so the artistry is going to help keep me grounded and be fun. But all the while, my nose was in the books. I was studying, was biology pre-med. And then the Navy said, guess what? And this was 1999. We're not sending you to med school, son. You're going to pay your time to the Navy that you owe after all these years that we've given you. And you're going to become a surface warfare officer on a ship because we're going back to the Middle East. So once the Navy said, we're not sending you to med school, I was like, well, I have to do something. So I spent a year in nursing school, dropped out, and then tried to figure out what was going to happen. And at that point, I made the commitment to go get my graduate degree in commercial performance, which is an emphasis on voice and theater and dance. So I was adamantly a part of the hustle, yo. I was grinding. I would work a graveyard shift, 10 o'clock at night to 6:30 in the morning, go to the gym, then I would be in an audition or I'd be in rehearsals, grinding. And that was my life for 2+ decades as a professional performer. And then the pandemic said, nah, son, you're done. And so then I lost it. I don't know what to do because I'm not working 19-hour days. So it forced me to slow down. And that's when I came into the realization, in order for me to set myself up for my greatest successes, I have to ultimately have a say in what I do. So then the pandemic happened and I took a sabbatical and I left the country and I wasn't on vacation. I was like, what is my purpose? And for me, a sabbatical is an active pursuit of that purpose. So all that being said, no, I don't think I've ever had a normal job. But yes, I did have jobs that supported what I needed to take care of. And now that I'm in this current state, my current incarnation is like, oh, hell no. You'll never see me in a shirt and tie. You'll never see me take a 40-hour work week because it's my choice. And this isn't knocking anybody because ultimately, like, it's from a place of necessity. So then the question that I raise is, can you be in that place of necessity and also take care of you? Like, what are your wants? What are your desires? What are your needs? Can you give them to yourself? And if what you're doing doesn't provide that for you, then I challenge you to just reconsider what does make your heart happy. And that thought's complete.
Hey guys, just a quick break to let you know this podcast is sponsored by my company, Adda Financial. You hate personal finance, and rightfully so. Let Adda handle the boring stuff, like investments, student loans, and insurance, so you don't have to. To learn more, check out the link in the show notes or go to addafinancial.com. Now back to the show. In what ways has this mindset changed in the last 20 years? If I were to have met 25-year-old Ceasar, would I recognize you? And when did that change? Was it a slow shift over years?
Awesome question. If you would have met 25-year-old Ceasar, you may not have recognized me because I still had hair. Nah, you would have met this cocky MFer. I think the only people that put up with me were other cocky MFers. So here I am being influenced by what I thought was my need for acceptance. So I don't think you would have recognized 25-year-old me. The initial ascent into what I call emotional sobriety began in 2010. So I had met this wonderful woman. I was approaching 30. I was like, what a 30-year-old supposed to do? Get married. We talked about this. Like, okay, I got to start saving for the house and I got to figure out where I'm going to live. And so it was my ex-wife idea to leave Houston and move to Los Angeles. So I'm in this place of like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. And then the relationship ultimately ended and the divorce murdered me. And I was just seeking help. I'd had suicidal ideations before. After the divorce, I was like, nah, we're just going to end all of this because it's just, it. Ooh, I just recently heard a wonderful TED talk. I can't remember the young man's name, but he was like, I had suicidal ideations and I didn't want to end my life. I just wanted to kill the pain. And that's how I felt. So in order to kill the pain, I'm like, well, I have to die. And that's heartbreaking to consider, but that's where I was. And so it was 13 plus years of a roller coaster ride. Relapses, hey, I'm on top of the world, nope, falling down again. And that's part of the process. And so I've had various forms of therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, EMDR, cognitive behavioral therapy support groups. But it wasn't until I connected with Everyman in 2020 that I finally was able to piece it all together. Okay, what am I feeling? Where am I feeling it? And that's what led ultimately to like a lot of the facilitation work that I do. That was a long way around to answer your question.
No, I love it, man. So I know you have several of these, but if you had one mission, if you could do anything, if you didn't have to worry about money for 5 years, let's say, what would you be doing right now in the sense of helping others?
Sure.
What would that be?
That's awesome. If I could do anything for the next 5 years and I didn't have to worry about money, I am going to continue to reach out to those individuals who trust me to share and I can help them. I want to continue to be this voice. I want to continue to share with people their potential. And that's a lot of what we do with Everyman. So yeah, that's what I would do, man.
So you said you want to talk to men, you want to educate men, you want to lead groups for what, right? For what? So what?
Not just men, just people, however you identify, regardless of religion, race, creed, sexual orientation, color. Ultimately, can I continue to be a guide? So my end game is if I disappear tomorrow, are there people that are going to continue to share the messages that I'm conveying? And ultimately, are they in a position to bring greater awareness to their own self-worth? So for all the cool things that I've done and the accolades on my resume, and this is why I'm like, yo, it's hard for me to talk about what I do because I can't just put this on a resume. This isn't a 2-sentence blurb. But like I had no self-worth. I'm on stage in Vegas. I'm VIP parties. I'm in front of 25,000 people at concerts dancing, and I still felt like I was a piece of shit. I still felt insecure. I still had self-esteem issues. So ultimately, can someone realize just how amazing they are? And that's what I want to continue to help people do. That's actually a nice segue, if you don't mind. Like that takes me into the site that I created, thejourneywithcaesar.com. Feel free to visit. It's like a service center. And I've done talks for IBM, Capital One, Bank of America. I've got some stuff upcoming for Apple. So whether it's corporate or individual, how can you be supported? And that's the preface to our everyman groups. It's like, what do you need? How can you be supported? And then this then ultimately goes back to like what you asked me, what do I want to do? I want people to feel powerful because they are. I want people to take up space. We talk about doing it on the mat all the time when I teach yoga, like take up space, be on the mat. I want people to walk around like they're 9'10", like be powerful and kind and inclusive and compassionate and love filled.
Are there any, I should say, would you have any quick tips? You know, if I'm coming to you and I'm just a wreck. I'm working 75 hours a week. My kids hate me. My wife and I are about to get a divorce. I'm unhappy. I'm trapped on society's hamster wheel. Ceasar, help me. I have 5 minutes per day. What can I do?
So here's the simple, quick tip. Whoever you are in the world right now, whoever's listening in, may I invite you to take a conscious breath and you be in a position to empty out the tank, blow all the air out of your body, and then just consider the breath you're taking in. So as you breathe in, whatever it looks like for you, I'm not going to tell you anything other than listen to the breath come in. Maybe feel it expand the chest. Maybe feel it inflate the belly. Maybe you sip in a couple more sips of air, and then just let it out. And what does that feel like? Oh, maybe there's a sigh, maybe there's an audible sound, but that's simple. That one breath is what physiologically is activating the body's parasympathetic nervous system. That's the body's rest and digest. So how do we then come to a place to then handle the stressors of work, the arguments with the wife, the kids who you're estranged from? You have to stop and you have to breathe. Your body's respiratory system is the only system that you can voluntarily and involuntarily control. So at any point in time, you can pause and say, all right, I got 5 minutes. Maybe you just take 5 deep breaths. That's it. Maybe you relax the shoulders away from the ears, but that conscious act of controlling the air in, controlling the air out, then starts to improve focus. It increases clarity. It helps the body's digestive systems. You're activating a decompression. You're starting the calming effect. Because guess what? Meditation isn't here to remove the obstacles. Meditation isn't present and hasn't been present for thousands of years to get you and your wife to fucking get along. No, meditation is here so that you can then increase your capacity for those discomforts. So how do you handle those stressors? How do you handle, I can barely keep my feet going on this hamster wheel? You breathe. You have to breathe. 168 hours in a week. All you need is a few moments a day to take a deep breath. Can I show you something right quick, Deb? For those of you who can't see, there's a sticker on the back of my phone. Every time I see the sticker, I take a deep breath. So I meditate, because I'm always on my damn phone, 25, 30 times a day. So it doesn't have to be sitting in stillness, stroking the beard on the mountaintop, waiting for perfection. Because guess what? There is no perfection. So the simplest way to start is by setting the reminder on your phone. Put the Post-it note up on your mirror so that when you're brushing your teeth and it says breathe, you take 2 deep breaths. And then that sets you up for the next few moments. And then you get to choose to take another deep breath in an hour when you're waiting in traffic, and that calms the body down. And it allows you to drive safer. And then it allows you, before you jump into that meeting at work, to take the deep breath and, guess what? You killed that presentation, or you secured another client, or you get to have an uncomfortable conversation with your wife or one of your coworkers, but it puts you in a place to then be able to better respond. So set the alarm, take multiple deep breaths, treat yourself. We put too much as a society on what is considered a win, when in actuality, we're gifted multiple wins a day, and it can look like whatever you want. But that's ultimately what it is. Can you just try something, fail, try again, fail? I mean, I stopped losing, bro. I either win or I learn something. But everyone wants to concentrate on the win. Well, your win can be whatever you want, and everything leading up to it is also a win because I'm still here for some reason and I'm going to accept it and I'm going to love it and I'm going to embrace it.
But you've done a dozen or two different things in your life. You've tried, you've either succeeded or you've learned something. But do you ever look back and maybe not regret, but do you ever wish that you just would have finished with the Naval Academy and become a lawyer
Sure.
or a banker and live this quote unquote normal lifestyle? And do you ever wish it?
I consider it. I don't wish it. I definitely consider like had my wife and I had kids, had I gotten commissioned. So I often look back and been like, ooh, how different would it have been? But do I wish for it? No. Even when I'm like, I was sitting in a jail cell over the pandemic and it was just like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, how did I get here? Despite all these quote unquote wins and celebrations, like the life that I've led, I'm still human. So I considered what led me to there. Do I wish I'd done anything different? I, in my current state, don't wish anything to be different because I wouldn't be here if any of those things had happened. So do I wish for a different lifestyle? No. Do I ever consider it? Yeah. I often wonder, oh man, that would have been different. Yeah. Just consider like, oh, if I had married so and so instead of so and so, or if I had taken this job instead of this job, or oh, if I had acted on my impulse to move to Costa Rica at this age, how differently. All of that definitely take into consideration. But no, I don't wish for anything else.
Do you have any regrets from past relationships? Just that maybe more of a learning experience than a regret. How about that? How about that framing?
I actually love the framing in regards to like a learning experience. What do you regret? I often think of prior relationships, and I like to think that every time a relationship for me ended, I learned something else. And so then it just took me to another place to learn something else. Ultimately, with the demise of the partnership I was in during the pandemic, and that's what ultimately then spurned the shift to current state, was just to have that respect. So the biggest regret that I have across multiple partners, the guilt that I carry, the shame that I still carry, is that I didn't provide the support of what's traditionally a good partner. So I didn't listen enough. I was too possessive. I tried to be controlling. So those are my biggest regrets. And so my current partnership, I'm elated that I have been able to openly speak to this. So consider like 3 years of every man. And for the first time in my life, I'm applying the same language that I use in facilitating in a partnership. And it shows up in the same way. And I'm reaping all of these rewards and benefits. She the other day says to me, she goes, I never knew that I wasn't safe in any relationship. She goes, but now I know what it feels like to be supported unequivocally, to be supported non-judgmentally. I know what it's like to be safe in a relationship. And bro, I burst into tears. That's ultimately all I want to show up as, not only for my partner, but for my family, strangers on the street. And I just be in a position to acknowledge them.
Mm. I think even just 3 years ago, maybe even more recently, I would have been incredibly skeptical of your story and of your message. I'm wondering if you could just show us, if you would be open to doing a quick expose of something that you do. You do 50 different things just to show us the power of what you're preaching.
No, Dev, that's awesome. So let's celebrate for a moment your self-awareness. Again, you yourself a few years ago would have been like, nah, maybe not take any stock in what's being said. But teachers only appear when the students are ready. So now you're in a place to be open to this. I remember I had an ex-girlfriend. She was like, Cease, I'm so sick of your bohemian tree hugging bullshit. Like she said that. And I was like, well, this is how I am. And so wherever you are, if you're listening in, don't stop doing anything that you're doing. So like maybe you're tidying up, maybe you're making lunch, maybe you do have a position to sit in stillness for the next 45 seconds. So if you have it within you, just raise awareness to the senses. So can you breathe in? And as you breathe in, can the top of the chest rise? Can the rib cage expand? Can the belly inflate? And then just let the air out. And so can you hear the air as it comes in? If you feel safe and are comfortable, maybe the eyes close. If not, maybe the gaze merely softens. And then I'm going to ask you to do something that maybe other meditation teachers don't. I want you to focus on everything happening in your brain. Consider what it is that's coming up for lunch. Consider the projects that are due next week. Think about it all. Think about it. Meditation is not here to silence the mind. That's impossible. Your conscious, unconscious, and subconscious minds are continually rolling. Can you be in a position to just acknowledge them? So this is what's going on. As you breathe in, any kind of scent in the air, what are you seeing? Colors, textures. What's the temperature in the room? Do you feel warm in the jacket you're wearing? Do you feel hot and sweaty? Do you feel the floor underneath your feet? Do you feel the chair that's underneath your body? Do you feel the sound of the ground as you're walking along? Can you recall your favorite dessert? What's that taste like? Are there remnants of coffee still in your mouth? And then take the next deep breath in, and I'm going to invite you to do so towards the biggest, deepest breath you've taken yet today. So again, breathing in, let the entire body, torso rise, and the inhale, top of the chest rises, rib cage expands, belly inflates, and then just allow the air to leave as the body floats back. And if the eyes have been closed, take a moment to gently flutter them open, come back to wherever you are, and just take notice around you. All mindfulness is pausing, observing, noticing. And that was just under 53 seconds. So imagine having the capacity to do that for yourself. Because maybe it's not guided with me. Maybe it's just you going, you know what? I'm about to walk into this meeting. You take 10 seconds to take one deep breath in, one deep breath out. Every single breath that you breathe in is an activator for the sympathetic nervous system. That's fight or flight. So when you freak out and the body goes, every breath is telling the body, be ready, be ready, be ready. It's the exhale that tells the body, no, we're good, we're okay. Which is why it's often seen when people are hyperventilating or having a panic or an anxiety attack, they can't catch their breath because your body's going into that protective state to make sure all of the blood flow leaves the extremities to come to the vital organs. So it's during a boxing class, it's during the argument with your wife, it's during the meeting and the presentation that you're in the midst of, and you extend the exhale because that activates the rest and digest. So alongside conscious controlled breathing, can you be in a position to breathe in for like 5 seconds and then breathe out for 10? Or can you breathe out for as long as possible? That's what tells the body, oh, okay, focus improves, and then you can handle whatever it is that you're going to handle, or you at least respond to it.
So why a men's group? I know you didn't start Every Man, but why that specific part of the population?
I firmly believe in providing support groups that cater to the individual's needs. I think I cater specifically to men because we're also trying to rewrite what we've traditionally been looked at as. Yeah, we can be the providers and we can be the protectors, but we can also be like, we can be subservient, we can be softer, we can find that there's actually a balance between the masculinity and the femininity. So if we can be in a place to talk to men and say, all right, yo, fellas, kings, warriors, fellow beautiful humans, you're good. You can be vulnerable. You can emote. You can admit faults or that you need help. So I think I cater more towards men's, but that same element of thinking applies to however you identify, regardless of race, creed, religion, sexual orientation, or color.
Maybe we wrap up with this last question. I don't know. We'll see where this goes. So you've done a ton, man. Both good and bad, right? Let's be honest. Your life is not a series of victories.
No.
Is there one thing left on the agenda that you want to do before you pass?
Oh, I'm glad you said that. Yesterday's guided meditation was based on manifesting using the power of the full moon. And one of the things that I spoke into my ether, into my aura, into my energy is, with whatever time I have left, bro, I just want to be present. And it sounds however it sounds, but honestly, like, all I ultimately want to do is continue to be present. I want to continue to support, because ultimately that's what I am. I'm a guide. I'm a healer. And I want to continue to empower people. Do I have bucket list items? Yeah, I want to get to Australia. I want to parasail again through the Austrian Alps, and I want to show my partner that. I also want to be, for the first time in my adult dating life, a doting, supportive partner, because I've never been that. So I want to do that. In regards to like work, can my jobs financially compensate me for shit that I would probably do for free? And until I'm called home and I'm cremated and turned into an avocado tree, can I continue to be a shining example of light and love and compassion and inclusivity in a dumpster fire of a world?
Amen, brother.
Thank you.
Where can people find you? We got the website,
Feel free to check out,
thejourneywithcaesar.com.
thejourneywithcaesar.com. All the social media at Ceasar F. Barajas. Check the spelling. I also love to share with people the Everyman site. So EVRYMAN.com, veteransyogaproject.org. If you or anyone you know, show up, because we've got this awesome, beautiful, trauma-informed, healing-centered library of yoga classes and meditations and nidra. If you're interested in learning more about the organization or how else you can further support, please visit veteransyogaproject.org. And I absolutely love hearing from people. That's ultimately how I can continue to be of service and provide. Because, after again having been incarcerated and shot at and been this close to fulfilling the suicidal ideation probably 3 different times in my life, I'm just honestly delighted to still be here.
That's beautiful, man. Well, I hope that if your story can positively affect even just one person, that's what it's about, at least to me. Well, this is great, man. I really appreciate it. I know we're hanging out next week, so let's touch base on that. We got to pick a show. We got to pick a date.
Yeah.
I'll be in
see you next
town in 1
week.
week.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Capital T, capital Y. Thank you.
So lovingly received. All the best to you and the familia.
Thanks, man. We'll be in touch.
You got it. All right.